I had this outsider mindset, an outsider perspective that
Yeah.
was able to see how things could be done differently. And I think
Yeah.
that was necessary for building the company that I did.
Welcome to A Heart for Space. I am your host, Dr. Eiman Jahangir. Join me as we uncover what it takes to reach beyond the limits of what we think is possible and turn the biggest dreams into tangible reality. All right. Well, thank you, Leah, for joining us today. I'm pretty excited to have you on the podcast. For those of you who don't know, Leah is actually my sister-in-law, so my wife's sister, because people often get confused, and has done a lot of amazing things. But I always like to start this podcast out as if you were going to come and describe yourself or tell people what you were up to at a dinner party or something like that, how would you describe yourself?
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. My greatest accomplishment is being your sister-in-law, truly.
Yeah, right.
No, it is. We have so much fun together, and
We
my
do.
sister married very well. So no, I'm so excited, so happy to be able to chat with you. Um, so if I were at a dinner party, how would I describe what I do? Well, I'm first an engineer, I think second an entrepreneur, and then third an investor. So I started my career at IBM as a software engineer. I had the idea for my company TaskRabbit, which I built, launched, sold over the course of about a decade. And then after that, I became a venture capital investor, and I now invest in early stage companies at kind of their early origin beginning points.
I think I'm sold. I'm going to come work with you.
Anytime,
No,
anytime. You are an advisor to one of our funds, so I
fair
send you
enough.
deals. I send
Yes,
you deals all
yes.
the time.
So part of this podcast is I'm talking to people who have done really great things, accomplished. Um, but the theme comes back to how does someone pursue that like hard dream? Because you just said it. You were an engineer, you had a stable job at IBM. And then kind of early on when I was dating your sister Amber, I saw you pivot, which, to
Yeah,
someone like me who grew up being like, you need that stable field. I was like,
yeah,
holy smokes, that is cool. But how did you make that decision to go from like stability and
yeah.
W-2 income to chasing what was your dream at the time?
Well, okay, because it's you, Iman. I'm gonna give you a real, authentic, honest answer here because, I would answer that in the normal way, which would be like, I was so passionate about the idea, I couldn't put it down. Like, I just became obsessed with,
Yeah.
connecting people in real life to get and like that's how TaskRabbit was formed. But like, I gotta say, you remember you were there. We were all living in Boston, and I don't know if you recall, but like or what it looked like to you from the outside, but it was a big internal struggle for me to let go of the stability of IBM.
Yeah.
And, you know, our dad, Poppy, he was in the Air Force for 35 years, right? Retired, served in the government, super
Yep.
stable job. And
Super stable.
that was my model. I didn't have any models of anyone starting companies or being an entrepreneur. And so it was a big struggle. I also remember, like at IBM, they would win year over year for the best place for women to work.
Huh. I didn't know
And-
that.
yeah. And like, I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't notice that as a young
Yeah.
woman just starting my career. I was like, wow, like I could stay here for 30 years and it would be ranked the best place for women to work. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. But I don't know, I just remember it being a big leap, and then I also remember that I felt a big sort of separation too, like, maybe from family, from my parents, from friends who maybe didn't understand what I was doing, and it was so stressful, and it was such a big
Yeah.
decision to make that leap that I remember feeling like this like, just so alone and, like, this gap. So what ultimately made me do it, I mean, again, it was because I was just so obsessed with this idea
With
of
the concept.
TaskRabbit.
Yeah.
And it had to exist. and I knew I could build it. And so I did, but those struggles were real. I don't know. Do you remember like when I was leaving IBM and stuff, like from the outside? Do you remember what that looked like to you?
Well, I mean, I would say first off, for our audience members, this was the first company/app in the sharing gig economy, which I don't
Yeah.
think everyone appreciates. But I mean, it's so iconic. It was in Silicon Valley. I remember seeing that and texting you
Oh,
from the
yeah.
show. I'm like, oh, there it is. But like, it
Yeah.
was a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I remember it not being stress-free. I think what
Yeah.
I think what stuck with me during that time though was, and part of like what I tell, like I just got off with some students in Memphis an hour ago, and I was like, you got to find your team. And I think one of the things that I thought was really impressive early on was that you had, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the founders or the founder of Zipcar as
Oh,
one of
yeah.
your mentors.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I don't know what other role she served, but it was
Yeah.
clear to me early on you had someone that could at least help
Yeah.
guide you because
It's true.
we didn't I didn't grow up in a business family. My dad still would say, we weren't built for business, we were built for science.
Oh,
You didn't grow up in a business family.
no. No.
So those people are key, I guess. So did that help? Would having that mentorship help you kind of jump?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, and I think that is what gave me the confidence to do it. So it was Scott Griffith. He was the CEO of Zipcar at the time, and I didn't know Scott in advance. Like
Yeah.
I had no network, right? But I was just talking to friends about the idea over dinner one night, and one of them said, "Oh, you should email my friend Scott. I think he'd really like what you're working on." I was like, "Cool, give me his email address." I
Yeah.
had no idea he was the CEO of Zipcar.
Yeah. We all knew what Zipcar was though at the time because
Yes,
that was like
yes,
the big thing. There was no Uber, there was no Lyft. It was Zipcar. That was
that was it.
yeah.
And so I emailed Scott like late on a Saturday night, cold email. He wrote me back Sunday morning. He invited me to come by the office to chat with him, and we just hit it off. It was great because when I went by his office, Scott was like, "Wow, like the way you're thinking about TaskRabbit is how I think about Zipcar. It's like placing shared resources in a neighborhood that everybody can use. You're doing the
Yeah.
same thing with errands and tasks that I'm doing with cars." And, literally just like on a human level too, the nicest man.
Yeah.
And he and I met kind of maybe for like a month, week over week for a month. And then he finally said, "Leah, I think you're really onto something here. I think you should see how far you can take it."
Oh
And
wow.
that was the moment. Like that was when he said that, I was like, "I'm gonna quit IBM. I'm gonna do it."
Yeah.
And I did. And then he actually let me sit at the Zipcar office for free for a year and
And this
work
was
at
before workspaces existed too, right? There was
yeah.
no co-working space at that point.
No, no, there wasn't. But it was cool because I got to sit in an office with other people. I wasn't alone. It was just me,
Yeah.
right? But I
Yeah.
also got to see what a really incredible CEO looked like. And
Oh, interesting.
I saw Scott lead that company every day,
Yeah.
walk through the office. I saw how much people respected him, asked him for advice. He would share perspectives. He's so calm, so level. And so
Yeah.
that was a really good role model for me too for that year as I was starting to build TaskRabbit.
And I hear this when I don't have a startup, but I've heard you got to put your money where your mouth is to an extent because you really do have to. You can't just go look for funding. You also need to be invested financially. And you really were invested financially in TaskRabbit early on. Tell us that story about how you made the decision to not only leave IBM, but take the, the
God.
the money you had built up in your retirement at IBM and put it on the line.
Yeah, well, listen, like I didn't have any other money, right? Like a lot of times
That's
people are
fair.
like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, for your first round of funding, just like do a friends and family round." Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have friends and family that are going to write $100,000 checks. Like,
Yeah.
that is not my world, okay?
Yeah.
And so I was always so confused by that, but what I did have was $27,000 in my IBM pension. So,
Amazing.
I had to take it out with a penalty because I was
Yep.
28 at the time.
Yeah.
But that $27,000 minus the penalty was what funded the early days of TaskRabbit. That and maxing out credit cards. Yeah.
Yeah. maxing out credit cards. It is pretty wild.
Yeah.
And you didn't have like an MBA, and I hear different things like, oh, an MBA is useful, it's not useful. Do you think not coming from that world of like startup business and really just coming from it at an engineer angle, was that an asset? Did that allow you to see things differently? Or do you think, oh, maybe it would have been helpful if I had gone to school and had some of those educational pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I think it cuts both ways. And as I look back now, I think that I suffered from a lot of imposter syndrome because I did not have the MBA.
Yeah.
And I think I made, frankly, bad decisions early on where I didn't trust myself enough because I didn't have the credentials that other
Yeah.
people did in the room. But like, whatever, I was just as smart as them, probably
Yeah.
smarter.
Fair
And
enough.
like, this is not rocket science. Talk about you going to to orbit. Okay. This is not rocket science.
Yeah.
This is like spreadsheets and numbers. And like, I was a math major. Like, I should have had more confidence in myself from the beginning to be able to like really figure it out. But, it did kind of affect my confidence, my journey early on. Looking back, I think that, and this may be controversial, okay?
Yeah.
My husband has an MBA. He's
Yeah.
lovely. He's so smart. Like I have nothing against people with MBAs, but I for me, like I think the most valuable thing I see in people that have MBAs is their network.
Oh,
They
interesting.
they
Yeah.
they go to business school and they network with all these other like really smart, really amazing people, and they keep that network. And then those
Yeah.
people end up at Google and Meta and Facebook and
Yeah.
Microsoft and whatever. And then you have contacts everywhere. I think that is a very expensive way to build a network, but
Yeah.
it is one way.
Well, I mean, it
And
goes back to knowing you're having a team, I guess, right? Like Scott
yeah,
was your team.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, like, because I didn't have that network, I do think it gave me an edge. So I think my advantage was I had this outsider mindset, an outsider perspective that
Yeah.
was able to see how things could be done differently. And I think
Yeah.
that was necessary for building the company that I did. And maybe I couldn't have done it if I had the MBA and was like sort of like groomed and programmed a different way.
Maybe you wouldn't have had the idea. Like,
Yeah, maybe I would have been like, "This is too risky, like, too many things can
yeah.
go wrong." Like, I heard that a lot, actually, from friends with MBAs, like, "Oh, I would never build that business." Like,
Yeah.
so many things could go wrong. But so I think it's just like, you are who you are. You got to embrace whatever skills, whatever resources you have, and they're gonna be unique in how you deliver whatever it is you're
Interesting.
working on. Yeah.
No, I think that, I mean, it's a interesting point because I often think about like, is there any point in going back to school? And I think about our children and I'm like, well, there's definitely a value to going to like an Ivy League school for the network. But from an educational standpoint, my state school is probably going to deliver the same education. So it's really like, what are you aiming for in whatever field that might be?
No, I totally agree, and I think, like, for our kids, what's gonna be interesting, like, the future generations, particularly with AI and how pervasive that has become,
Yeah.
like, think another decade, like, when our kids are ready to go to college, like, I think a liberal arts education, I think an education in humanities, like,
Yeah.
I think education and learning history and things that are human, because I
Yeah.
think the technology is going to somewhat be taken care of for us, but we're gonna need humans in the loop to create experiences and intervene and trust and safety and all these other things.
And just like to learn how to think. I mean, I think one of the
Mhm.
things we miss is like critical thinking,
Yes.
which college does teach you. I mean, and you,
It does, and I think college is gonna have to evolve too because critical thinking, yes, and how do you prompt? How do you prompt
yes.
these GPTs? How do
Yeah.
like, how do you talk to a machine the way
Yeah.
like, you gotta I don't know, there's a whole piece of education that's gonna have to be reformed just with how fast technology is moving.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting concept, and I am trying to vibe code, which I've never coded because I was not a software engineer, and I
Yeah,
have my son doing it because I'm like, "You need to at least
yeah.
get familiar."
Yep.
Now, you are a Latino woman. You guys are Puerto Rican, you and my wife,
Puerto
and
Rico.
in Puerto Rico. Like, do you think that hurt, help, or you could just pass and no one would know? For instance, like I can walk down the street, no one knows, but as soon as they hear my name,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
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 I don't know if you found
I know.
that, and there are not a lot of companies, in these industries that I think are run by early on by Latinas, especially if you're 20 years ago.
No, I know. I mean, like the stats for venture capital are 2% of women receive venture capital funding, 0.6% of Latinas receive venture capital funding.
That's
So
wild.
it is wild. So here's how I feel about this. I feel like I have been a secret agent my entire life. I
Yeah,
pass as white, okay?
yeah,
And so does Amber, right? And last name can sometimes give it away, Solivan, but we
yeah,
can also go by Sullivan, and
yeah,
like no one bats an eye. So I that is just the truth, right? And that is just a factor of my journey. And so I think what that has given me is sort of this insider and outsider perspective. Like I can sit in rooms where I pass as white, no one thinks differently, and things are
yeah,
said that may not be said if they felt like there was a woman of color in the room, right? So
yeah.
you hear things. You hear things, you're kind of like, wow, that's interesting, right? Um, and so I don't know. I think it's complicated. I think that I'm part of the Latino Corporate Directors
Oh, very cool.
Association. Yeah, so this is a group of Latinos that are placed on boards, public, private boards, et cetera. It's an
Yeah,
amazing organization. We get together, and support each other. And I remember at like one of the opening remarks for the sessions, it's like with Latinos, you can get married, you could have a name change. You're still Latino, but no one
yeah,
knows, right? So you don't get counted either. Like it's very
yeah.
difficult and nuanced to track these things in this community. So I've really appreciated, of course, like my heritage, and then also being able to kind of see both sides at all times. I think it's like a very unique perspective that I've had and certainly shape the way my value system is, how I build companies, how I build teams, right? Like what I want to invest in.
Yeah.
So it definitely gives me a very unique lens.
No, I remember I was working at the Gap, and my manager was like, "We're gonna mark you as, like Middle Eastern or something." And I'm like, "I guess I am Middle Eastern, but I'm also Caucasian." She's like, "'Cause we need the diversity."
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
"Fair enough, fair enough."
Yeah.
But this is, it's the world we live in. And I
Yeah.
think it's exciting because I know in your latest kind of endeavors, you are working to give more access to startup founders and
Yeah.
and to entrepreneurs, which I think is huge because a lot of it is one, having a role model like you, so seeing it can be done, and then two, having access to that mentorship, the money, et
Yeah.
cetera, that you need to be successful.
I mean, it's interesting because I'm very passionate about all of that, but like I also feel a very strong obligation in
That's
a good
good.
way.
Yeah,
But
that's
like
good.
but it's like I've had this privilege of success. I've gotten to where I am, for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah,
And I just feel so much obligation to like bring others along. And
yeah,
it's interesting because I look at my peers in the industry, other venture capitalists, they don't feel that obligation.
yeah,
They don't carry that with them in the same way. And so I just like we just need more people, more diverse people to get in these roles, to be controlling capital, to be helping,
yeah.
startup founders because we come with, a different set of perspectives and, we want to bring others along.
That's awesome. And, there are roadblocks, things happen, and part of what I like to talk about is perseverance because I think people often will give up too early, maybe they're just like one more no away from getting that yes. So what does that look like on a day-to-day, particularly when you're trying to raise money, when you're trying to expand internationally, as you did with TaskRabbit, and like not the inspiring version, but like the real version of like, how do you just get up and you're like, all right, today kind of sucks, but we got to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm feeling that right now. I'm raising a new fund right now,
Yeah.
and it is not easy. This is a terrible time to be raising money in the venture capital industry.
Yeah.
So I've lived it with TaskRabbit. Every single round of funding that we raised, so we raised about $50 million overall the course of 10 years. The majority of it came in like a 2 to 3 year period, kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And, for every round I raised, none of them were easy. I would talk to 50 plus investors every round.
Oof. Yeah.
I got one yes every time. One yes. That's it. I mean, it was grueling.
And that's hard, like to share your story over and over and over again. I mean, someone
Yeah.
might think it's exciting, but like,
That's the thing. It's like, I knew that it was not a problem with the company
yeah,
or the business or the team or anything I was doing. I knew that because
yeah,
the company was doing well. We were scaling, but it was about finding the right investor where it was going to resonate
yeah,
and who wanted to come in and support you. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. And
yeah.
investors have all kinds of different reasons why they're not going to invest. And, these big funds maybe do a deal a year. They look at like thousands
Oh,
of
interesting.
companies. They'll do a deal
Yeah,
a year. It's not like a high volume business either.
yeah,
So yeah, it is really hard. I mean, I remember asking you this question, which is like, what is the line between perseverance and delusion, right? It's like, it's a very thin line.
yeah,
And I think what I go back to is, do you keep going or do you feel like you're being delusional? Look at the data, look at the
yeah,
underlying, what are the first principles of what you're doing and do they make sense? And is it just that you're not getting the attention or match with the right people that can help? Or is it that
yeah,
the underlying idea is bad? And I think looking at analytics, looking at data, really reflecting deeply on that can help determine which side of the line you're on.
yeah,
But I think that, I mean, it's a hard thing to determine.
yeah. No, I mean, I tell people they have to enjoy the process because there's not
Mm.
always a guarantee for success.
Oh God.
It's harder to enjoy the process when you have $50 million of other people's money
Yeah, I did not enjoy the fundraising
that you're
process
feeling
at
you're
all.
hopefully feeling responsible for.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely. And you're like, wow, I'm telling this story and, the person's asking me, I'm telling the story about oh, outsourcing small jobs, errands,
yeah,
tasks. And you're sitting in a room of all these male venture capitalists who don't do errands, small jobs, or
that's right.
tasks.
They
They
have
have
people to do it for them.
that do
That's
that
right.
for them. Their wives do that for,
That's
it's like,
right.
so a lot of times they would be like, oh, let me go home and ask my wife about this idea.
Oh, interesting.
Or let me
Yeah.
have our office admin try it. And it's
Yeah.
kinda like, okay. But, again, this is the problem with, who's in the room. Who's in the
Yeah.
room? And, we need more diverse people in the room so that more
Yeah.
ideas resonate. They're not bad ideas.
No, I mean, there's a lot of good ideas out there, just bad delivery sometimes.
And that can also be a problem, bad delivery. Absolutely. I've seen
I'm
some
not
bad
saying that
pitches.
was what happened here, but
I did
was
have an investor stop me in the middle of a pitch once. It was so mortifying. And it was, early on, it was, Series A. And I'm, going through the slides, and he stops, 3 slides in, and he's like, can we just stop?"
you just
He's like,
stopped it.
"Can we just stop?" He's like, I need to show you what an actual pitch deck looks like." And then he
No
gets up on
way.
the whiteboard, and he's like, "Here should be your first slide. Here's your second slide. I was like,
Wow.
"Oh my God, this is
Was this
so
early
embarrassing."
on or
It was
like
it was
okay, so it
early
was helpful
on.
maybe, but not in the best
No, he was kinda
delivery?
being, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, he was not, he was
He
very
had bad
condescending.
delivery. He had bad delivery. If
Maybe
it makes
I
you
had bad delivery, yeah.
if it makes you feel better. I I mean, in public speaking and like pitching a deck, I imagine there's some similarities. I
Yeah,
was speaking to this group of like high school students in Memphis this morning via Zoom.
yeah,
And the first question the guy gets on, and he's like, well, when they told me it was going to be an astronaut and a doctor, I thought it was going to be Johnny Kim. Now, I don't know if you know who Johnny Kim is, but Johnny Kim is like the quintessential, pardon my French, badass, Navy
okay.
SEAL, Harvard Med School, astronaut.
Whoa,
3 very successful careers, and he's a
okay,
Korean American, so there's memes all over the internet if you meme this guy, because
okay.
he's like every Korean, person's nightmare, because how are you gonna
Live
be
up to
Johnny
that.
Kim? Yeah, you
Live
can't
up
do it.
to that, yeah.
But the guy was like, "I thought this was gonna be Johnny Kim." He's like,
So he
"But you
was
were okay,
disappointed. He's like, "You're fine," but you're like,
but
"Great. This is a
you are
great way to
not
start this."
Johnny." Yeah, I'm like, "No, I wish I was Johnny Kim." He's
We
pretty
all wish we were
incredible.
Johnny Kim, yeah.
That's right, that's
That's
right. So,
so funny.
who knows? You know, the audience can be tough, whatever it might be.
Just gotta roll with it. You
You
gotta
just
roll with
gotta
it.
roll with it.
Yeah.
One here.
Okay.
Was there anything like a mental habit or a belief that served you more than like a skill or strategy? Like, was there something, a mindset that you had? Was it confidence in yourself, or was it just
Yeah, I would say it built over time. It was not there in the beginning, and I would call it a muscle of conviction. I feel like
muscle? I like that.
I had to, like, build this muscle of conviction, and
Yeah.
the conviction was in myself, in my decisions, it was in, the business, it was in, the day-to-day operations, whatever it was, I really had to build that muscle of conviction.
Yeah.
I think something that surprised me about that was early on, I remember, I'd be faced with a question and I would go get advice, as you do. You get advice from a lot of people. I'd go to Scott. I would go to other CEOs. I would ask them the same question. Here's the problem. What do you think? They
Yeah.
would give me 2 very different answers. And I was
Huh.
like, how is it that
Yeah.
these 2 very smart CEOs, very successful, would give me 2 different answers about the same question? And I
Yeah.
think that was the moment I realized I was the one that had to make the decision because
Yeah.
I was the only one that was
Yeah.
in the business, that deeply understood the nuances and everything about the business. And that mentality actually helped me build that muscle of conviction because I was like, I'm fine going to get advice from lots of people, but it's up to me. I got to
Yeah.
decide and I got to be confident in what my decisions are. So that took
Yeah.
some time.
Someone once told me that people can only give you the advice that they would take. So it's like it's good to get advice, but once again, it's colored and flavored by everything that's them, and they are
Yes,
not you, and they
that's
don't
right.
have the same set of factors as you do.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, like you made it, you were getting successful. At what point did you realize that this went from like TaskRabbit might be able to work to no, this is actually like working, and now it's a company, which you were successful. You ended up selling it to IKEA.
Mhm.
But like when did that pivot happen in that 10-year span?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you an answer that may surprise you. I don't know. I knew very early on TaskRabbit was going to be successful. I
Okay,
didn't always know if we were going to win in the industry or win
that's
in the
fair.
space.
Yeah,
And let me explain that. So, I've kind of developed this philosophy around winning versus success. And winning is points on the board, revenue, numbers,
yeah,
analytics, like you're just crushing those things. Success is winning, but it also is, did you act with values? Do you have ethics? Like what sort of impact are you having?
yeah,
And so I didn't always know if TaskRabbit was going to win. There were a lot of competitors. It was very stressful to build that company. But I knew we'd be successful. And the moment I knew we'd be successful was when we were open in 2 markets, Boston and San Francisco. And there was a job posted in San Francisco looking for a tasker in Boston. And the job
that's
was
pretty cool. Yeah,
my son is going through chemotherapy treatment at Mass General Hospital.
Hmm.
I need someone to go with him to his appointments, sit with him, bring him some food, like just be there with him, and then
Yeah.
call me afterwards and tell me like actually how it's going.
Yeah.
And the tasker that picked up the job in Boston happened to be another mom. And so the bond that these two moms formed across the country
Yeah.
was like incredible. And that was the moment I was like, that's it. We're successful.
Yeah.
Like this should exist. This is great.
I feel
And
like you need
so
to get those moms on StoryCorps.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I know.
I
We
mean, it's an
should.
incredible story.
It
It's
is.
like, yeah.
Yeah. And so, we heard about it in the office from both of the moms and like
Yeah.
I mean the morale of the team, like the mission, like we were all like, "Oh my God, this is why we're building this," right?
Yeah.
Um so that was the moment. And we were only
It,
open in 2 markets. And I was like, this should exist and we're
yeah.
going to keep trying to build it, you know?
I'd say from dog food to soul food.
Oh, yes. That's so good.
Yeah, I mean, but I
Yes.
mean, you would have never imagined that that's how it was gonna be used when you started.
No, I didn't. I was at a dog food one night. I was like, there's got to be an easy way to get this dog food. That was the
Yeah,
extent of the idea at that moment.
yeah,
That was
that's
it.
wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Um, so you've been successful, business. I know you've been successful, family, etc. What does success look like now for you? Like, what would I know you're raising a fund, so you could say, okay, maybe it's raising money for my fund, but I don't think that's how you define it, knowing you.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
guess, like, what would you define as success in the next few years, kind of as you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah. So, yeah, I sold TaskRabbit, jumped to the venture capital side, spent 9 years at a firm investing, and now I've spun out my own fund. And I think for me, I've really thought about this next chapter and what I want it to be and what success looks like. And I have my podcast, Breaking Precedent, where I'm interviewing
Yeah,
leaders across industries that are shifting society. I have my book coming out in 27, like around those themes as well. And then I have the fund that I'm raising. And I think it all ties together into this bigger vision for, an ecosystem that empowers people to break through. And
yeah,
and I think it goes back to this like obligation I feel of like growing up in a tiny town in Massachusetts, population 4,000 people, right?
yeah.
Like,
With a Dunkin' Donuts, that's it.
did we even
It's
have a that
not
wasn't
growing
air.
up.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't even in Shirley, okay?
yeah,
No, Shirley is known for its maximum security prison, okay? That's
yeah,
what it's known for. But it's like growing up with a Puerto Rican father, teeny tiny town,
yeah,
with no network, no connections, and then being able to build what I have. Like that is the American dream.
yeah,
And so I think, empowering people to break through in the ways they want to break through, whether it's like, I want to be the first person in my family to go to college and get a degree, right?
yeah,
I want to be the first person in my family to start a business. I want to change this industry. And so I've just become like obsessed with these people that are doing these amazing things and how they
yeah,
did it. And so I think success for me looks like being able to empower others to have those breakthroughs as well. And so that's what I'm, trying to do through my platform, through the book, through the podcast, and ultimately with the fund, I want to be able to back that next generation of category defining teams and companies.
yeah.
So that it's just, a small goal, small goals.
Small goals, no big deal. I will say,
Yeah.
Leah also started a podcast and started writing her book before I did. So maybe she inspired me to do both. So here we are
Here we
on a
are. I'm so
podcast.
excited. We're going to have so much fun in the next 12 to 24 months.
I know. We're gonna have to hit the book tour. So I'll come up to New York when you're up there.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and then I guess kind of pushing it back to the business, but the first generation piece. What piece of advice would you give to a first generation founder? Because I think there is the hustle, right? That sometimes comes with immigrants or first generation folks where you're like, I need to do this to survive, right?
Yep.
You're not coming from a place of privilege, like you said. But
Right.
like, what would you tell them? What would be the one thing to tell them? Like, in someone like you had a young person, 22, coming up with you, maybe not with a great idea yet, but just like, this is what I want to do. What would you
Yeah.
say?
I think I go back to what I wish I had done sooner, which
Yeah.
was believe in myself more in the beginning,
Yeah.
like build that muscle of conviction. Like that's something like any 22-year-old can do. Build the muscle of conviction. Like think through like how can I get more conviction around things? How can I believe in myself more? How can I not second guess, you know, my instincts or what I'm doing? How can I practice that? And I think, I was 28 when I started TaskRabbit. I'm pretty sure I had a company in me before that. That
Oh,
just
interesting.
never
Yeah.
happened. Never
Yeah.
happened. And that would have been pretty cool, I think, if TaskRabbit would have been my second company and I had left IBM maybe a little bit sooner and
Yeah.
and done something entrepreneurial first. But I was too scared. I didn't know the path, like there were too many
Yeah.
other factors. So that would be my advice is like just go for it.
I think that's good advice. And then, I guess I'll ask you one last question, and I could talk to you for hours, but
It better be a good one.
well, we end it with, the podcast is called A Heart for Space, which is what my book is called.
Yes, I
And
love it. I love the title so much.
thank you. No, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Um, so what is the space that you are still reaching for? And it doesn't have to
Mm,
be business. It doesn't have to be, but like, what's the space that you're still reaching for? Because we all have it.
totally. And I love that question. I think it is exactly what I'm doing right now, which is building this ecosystem, empowering people to break precedents. That's it.
I
Like,
love it. That's
can
great.
you imagine, like, if everyone in the world was like, I'm going to do this one thing, I'm going to break out and do this one thing that's
Yeah.
unique to them? Like, that would be pretty cool.
Well, we expect a Nashville branch of Breaking Precedent when this thing hits national. And then
Done.
when it's international, I'll just come wherever it's nice.
We'll do it in Puerto Rico.
That sounds good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. And it's always good to talk to you.
So much fun. Thank you, Eiman.
Thank you for listening to A Heart for Space. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode, and consider leaving us a review to let us know your thoughts. For more on my work in the pursuit of ambitious goals, visit ourheartforspace.com and look out for my upcoming book, Our Heart for Space. Until next time, I'm Dr. Eiman Jahangir. And remember, sometimes the only obstacle to achieving an impossible dream is the courage to keep going.